I'm so freaking tired, man. Alright. I tried to... The last video, I took the outdrive off, and I was going to replace the gimbal bearing. I don't even think I posted where I pulled it. Anyway, this is what's going on. Pulled the outdrive off to replace the seal and gimbal bearing. I had the right tool to get the gimbal bearing out. It came out perfectly fine. Then I got to the seal. Now, I didn't really have the tool to do that. The bearing puller will not pull the seal. It just comes right through and rips it. So that's where I screwed up. When I pulled those apart, it looked like the gimbal bearing was in excellent shape. Thinking about it, they put a new shift cable in, and they probably did the gimbal bearing when they did that. I should have left that seal alone and just put the new gimbal bearing in and been done with it. Anyway, I couldn't get the seal out. I ripped it up, pretty much all the rubber off of it, but I could not get the thing to budge. I modified one of my tools. I tried everything. I could not get it. So what I did was I ordered a little cheap slide hammer. And another place I screwed up. It took over 2 weeks for FedEx to get the stupid thing here. And meantime, it's just sitting. I started doing a little painting. The tool finally gets here. I get excited. I go down. I was actually painting when it got here, and I went down there and I got it and I put it in there and I tried to pull it and it would not work. What I finally had to do is what I should have done the first place, was go to AutoZone and rent the slide hammer. The biggest difference in the one I got and AutoZone's is it's longer, which you need because it's so far in there, and it actually has a washer on it that opens the jaws and keeps them open. So mine didn't have that, and it's so far in there you couldn't keep the jaws open and try to slide the hammer. It just falls out. So I get the one from AutoZone, open those jaws, stick it in there, and bam, literally 2 seconds, it was out. I'm like, okay, we're on a roll. I'm super busy, had to get back to work, so a day or two later I came up and decided to put the outdrive back on. Well, I put the seal and all that on there, and I tried to put the outdrive on there, and it absolutely would not go. So I'm like, all right, let me work on the alignment some. That day I spent 4 hours climbing up and down, adjust the motor, try the shaft, adjust the motor. And I thought, well, that's about as close as I'm going to get it. Tried to put the outdrive on, tried so hard, I actually ripped the crotch right out of my jeans, trying to push it in there. It would not go. So I left it alone. Yesterday, I've been so busy down there, literally 12, 15-hour days down there. I decided to come up and paint yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I got to get that outdrive back on there. It's aggravating. So I tried to put it back on. It still wouldn't go. So I got up. I spent another probably 4 hours up and down, adjusting and getting that alignment shaft like as close as I can get it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I can't get it any closer, and I can literally slide it in and out with 2 fingers. So I tried to put it on there, and it still didn't want to go. Well, I finally figured out a way that I put it up on there, and I know you'll get flack for this or whatever, but I put it up on there, and I actually used a ratchet strap to kind of push it in to where I could get some threads, and then I screwed it on. It was on. Everything seemed okay. And then we got to today's issues. I'm so bruised and beat up, I figured today, I'll put the shifter and the panel and stuff back on. And yeah, we've created more issues for ourselves. So let's play that out how it started. So where we started this morning, I was like, well, I can put the shifter back on, put that panel back up, get that out of the way. So there's my upholstered panel. It was a nightmare trying to get the shifter back in there. I kept pinching the wires and having them in the wrong spot and what have you. But I finally got the shifter up in there and the panel screwed in. And when I tried to shift into forward, it would not go. I could shift into reverse. It was a little bit difficult, but I got it in forward, but you could tell it wasn't right. It's just like you almost had to use 2 hands to push it down. It should be just like easy. So I pulled it back off, and I'm like, all right, so let's narrow this down. What's going on here? First thing I did was went back to here. This is your shift linkage and your throttle. I'm sorry, your shift linkage. Throttle's on the other side. I messed with the throttle, it seemed alright. So what I did was I pulled this off. This goes on here. I pulled that off. This is the cable that goes through the outdrive. I checked this cable to see if it was by itself, and it was perfectly fine. So I went around the back and checked back there, and it seemed like it was bound a little bit. So I came back up here, and this cable goes down through a hose, through the transom into the outdrive. Well, I moved it around because I figured, all right, well, maybe it's pinched back there somewhere. Because now I know that the shifter itself and this cable is working smoothly. Well, after fiddling with it, I pulled that up some. I fiddled with it in the back, and I actually got it where, look, it goes pretty easy. One thing I noticed when I first started this, I put the engine in reverse, and I went back and spun the prop, and it wasn't in reverse. It was trying to, but it wasn't there. So this is your shifter in the back. And like I said, I finally got it to go in and out smooth. But once I got it all the way out, looking at it, I realized something. If you look in here, right there, that is not supposed to be that way. What happened was, all the messing around, wiggling and banging and trying to get the outdrive on, I bent the shifter cable. Now, that hole right there has got to slide over top of right there for it to be fully engaged. Because that's bent, it will not slide over. So, me banging around the outdrive bent the shift cable. And this is where I'm at now. I had to take it all the way apart again. I was not happy about that. But at least I know what's wrong. The problem I have now is I have to order a new gasket, obviously. We ripped that, getting it back out. And I'm going to have to order alignment tools for that shift cable. Because with it being bent, even if I bend it back, I'm wondering if I bend it back, is it going to work? And because it was bent, is it going to cause it to bend again? Because we put a weak spot in it when we did that. So, yeah, I'm thinking at this point I might chalk it up to another expensive mistake. Those cables are about $130, $140. But I think at this point the best thing to do is replace that cable again. Because, yeah, I'm just afraid we do that and we're going to have another issue. But I'm just, nothing wants to go right on this project. Nothing. Even this paint. You know, I was doing the hatch and I dropped the brand new can of primer, $25 worth of primer on the ground. And I ordered some more. And I came up here, the outdrive, I'm stuck on that, so I'm like, let me tape this off and I'll paint the blue stripe. Well, I grabbed my can and I painted it all the way around. Before I looked down at my can and realized I didn't use primer, I used topside white. So I went back over it. It was still really tacky. I literally just finished it. So I went back over a lot of it with primer and then went back and sanded it with the 220 and then put a coat over it. But I've already got 2 coats on there and it still looks crappy. It's not covered. So, yeah, not even that's going right. Yeah, luckily, unsurprisingly, and it's funny because I've used this I'm using that Rust-Oleum paint. It's not expensive, but it's good stuff. I used it before, but well, I did use it on one boat. But the biggest thing I used it on was actually my race car. And people laughed. They were like, "Why are you painting your race car with that?" It's because it is cheap comparatively. And when I would brush the wall or another car, I would literally just get out the sprayer and spray back over the spot, and it blended in just fine. So that, yeah, I used it on the race car, and it actually did really well on the race car. So I figured try it again. But speaking of that, thankfully, when I was digging around in the shop the other day for a can of spray paint, I actually found a can of white and a can of blue that were from my old race car. So at least I have some extras now. But yeah, I guess what we'll do now, since we're stuck on this, is just put another coat on there and keep coating it until it's covered. But nothing wants to go right on this. I'm just a little tired and frustrated. So yeah, expensive mistake. I tried to straighten it. As you can see, it's still bent, and when it gets to that spot, it binds up. So we're just going to get a new cable.